The moment they saw her slam the door, mother and daughter shook their hands and laughed. That was exactly what they wanted. It was either Grace or no one. Finally, the devil is out, Sophia muttered. John's mother picked up her phone immediately and called Grace. I have chased her out. Now pack your bag because you are moving in soon, the woman said, and Grace laughed. Mary stood at the gate with her luggage waiting for a bike. The sun had already settled on top of the palm tree besides the gate. It was getting hotter, but Mary didn't feel it. The ache and hotness inside her heart was bigger than that. She saw an approaching bike and started trying to flag him down, but the bike sped past her. She sighed. The day one wanted something fast was the day that it would never come. But then a black, beautiful car stopped in front of her front. Come in, let me drop you off, the man inside the car said. No thank you, I am fine, Mary replied. I know that you are fine, but a fine girl like you are not supposed to be under the sun. It is not good for your skin. Thanks for the compliment, sir, Mary said again. The man now opened the car door and came out. He stood beside Mary. Can I have your number? The man asked. Mary was silent. She didn't know if she should comply or not. Wasn't it too early? Please give me your phone number. I just saw you and liked you. Mary hesitated for a little while before giving him the phone number. Thank you, but I will be more happy if you come inside the car. I want to drop you off. Mary looked furtively at her back and nodded her head. After all, her relationship with John had ended. Who knows if God wanted to wipe her tears? While driving, the man asked her about many things. About her life, her plans. He was a free man. He made Mary laugh like a mad woman inside the car. He shared many true and false stories with Mary, and indeed God really used him to wipe her tears because Mary enjoyed the ride so much. When Mary got to her apartment, instead of crying and thinking about John and his family, she was consumed with some of the stories the man had shared with her. The man's voice echoed in her mind throughout that night. Among the stories, the one that amused her more was the story about a greedy man that would always stay with his wife each time the wife was processing palm oil. The man wanted to know the amount of oil that came out each time his wife processed palm fruits. But one day the wife got angry and poured hot oil on top of her husband. Her husband screamed and screamed. Even the wife joined him in screaming, saying that it was a mistake. Do you think it was a mistake? Mary asked the man. No one knows if it was a mistake or not. All we know is that the man was never near that kitchen after his recovery. But that was too extreme. Do you know that the man could have died because of this? Mary said with a squeezed face. The man chuckled. At least it stopped him from monitoring his wife as if she was a thief. The hot oil impacted sense into his brain. Each time Mary remembered the way he had said it, it would bring a smile to her face. He was so funny with his words. The next day Mary was about to sleep when her phone rang. It was an unknown number. Hello, who is on the line? Mary asked. Fine girl, it is me, James. How was your day? James, good evening. Evening, pretty girl. Hope you have eaten dinner, he asked. If I say no now, what would you do? Mary chuckled. I swear I will go out now and buy food for you. Just tell me the food you want to eat and see it at your doorstep in the next 20 minutes. Mary laughed out loud. It is okay. I have eaten. I was about to sleep when your call came in. Thank God. Mary, I want to ask you something. James asked. What's it? I hope I am safe. Mary chuckled. Mary, are you in a serious relationship? What? Mary cut in immediately. Just answer me yes or no. I am no longer a baby and I hate beating around the bush. James, it is complicated. Mary answered. Then make it uncomplicated, James said. Mary inhaled and exhaled loudly. Then she began to explain everything about her relationship with John. She told him everything started from the day they met till the day she left the house and the reason she had left. Mary, will you marry me? The man said. Mary's eyes widened. Who does that? Who in his right mind proposed to a lady today is after meeting her? What was she supposed to say? Yes or no? James, what are you saying? Mary questioned. Mary, I am serious. From that very moment I met you that day, my spirit told me that you are my wife. Don't bother yourself about my family. They will love you because I love you. James, you have to give me time to think over it. You wouldn't expect me to give you a reply just like that. There's nothing to think about. Tell me now that you will marry me. James, I will call you tomorrow, please. Tomorrow, you said. I will be waiting for your call, James said. Mary didn't sleep that night. She didn't know what to make out of it. She had never heard that a man proposed to a lady 2 days after meeting her. No dating, no formalities, just straight to the point. Was that okay? Would that be a good marriage? She had so many questions to ask, but there was no one to ask. She prayed her rosary and asked Virgin Mary for her total guidance. 1 week later, James and Mary walked hand in hand into James' family house. His mother smiled and gave Mary a warm embrace. His siblings greeted her with enough respect. They were all over Mary. Mary, on the other hand, felt a kind of surprise. Although she wasn't looking for bad in-laws, she hadn't expected such a warm welcome from them. I heard that you love pounded yam and agusi soup so much, James' mother said and chuckled. Mary was surprised. She was shy to even utter a word. So she fixed her gaze at James. Are you wondering how I know it? Well, your husband told me, the woman said again. Mary was amazed. Your husband told me. That word alone was a testament that they had accepted her wholeheartedly. They had accepted her without any judgment, without even knowing who she was. Right there and then, she made it as a promise to herself to love James' family like hers. The pounded yam and agusi soup on the dining table was so delicious. But the discussion that accompanied the food was more delicious. James' mother shared many stories with Mary. Mary wasn't surprised at all. She noticed that James had taken after his mother. The way they talked, the way they laughed and smiled while telling the stories. Everything about the woman was seen in James. The woman told Mary not to pretend. That she loved ladies that didn't pretend for anything. Now I know why Brother James had been wasting time in getting married. James' youngest sister chipped in amidst their discussion, and they all laughed. I know that my son has good eyes, James' mother said while laughing. Mary didn't know if she should be shy or happy. But in all, she thanked her God for bringing a man like James across her path. James' sister told her that she would move into her home immediately when she got married to her brother. Daddy, welcome, James and his siblings said in unison. Ooh, Mary, James' dad exclaimed, and embraced Mary. I forgot that we would be having a visitor today. The board meeting took all my time. Sorry that I wasn't here when you came in. Hope you served her the best food and drink in this house. Dad, isn't she so beautiful? James' youngest sister asked. She is too beautiful, the man said. Then James' mother folded her arms across her breast, feigning to be angry. What's it, my love? James' dad asked, looking at his wife. How can my husband say that another woman is so beautiful in my front? James' mother grumbled, shaking her body. I am sorry, OOO. James, your wife is not more beautiful than my wife. My wife is the most beautiful woman on earth, the man said and went over to his wife. Are you happy now, my love? James' mother nodded her head, and they all burst out laughing. Mary laughed until her stomach ached. She had never seen a husband and wife that played like that. She watched as the man curled up his arms around his wife's shoulder. James' family was truly a comedian family. Everyone was free to express their feelings without being afraid. James' youngest sister was all over Mary. She shared many stories with Mary. James had told Mary about his youngest sister. She was the typical example of the child that people named an unexpected child. James' mother had stopped giving birth for over 15 years before she noticed that she was pregnant again. She thought it was another kind of sickness that looked like pregnancy, but it was not. She was pregnant, and when she reached 9 months, the little angel came out and they named her Angel. Angel was the center of the attraction in that family. They all loved her so much. John's mother and Grace sat under the mango tree inside their compound. The girl was making John's mother's hair. Their discussion was centered around Mary. marry this and marry that. John's mother had told Grace the way she pursued Mary out of the house. She had shared the story more than 1,000 times, and each time she did, Grace would always laugh and thanked her for what she did. Grace told her how she would take care of her after she got married to her son. The traditional marriage is around the corner, and Grace couldn't contain her joy. She had sewed the best dress for the great occasion. Invited all her friends from far and near. It was the day of the traditional marriage. John stood in front of the large mirror in his room staring at his reflection. At last he had accepted Grace wholeheartedly as his wife. Although she was a good girl, but not closer to Mary, Mary was different. She was totally different. Slowly by slowly, he had fallen in love with Grace. He had no option anyway. And today, they would be pronounced as husband and wife traditionally. The lion, my king, the son of his father, today is your day. Be happy, John's mother praised John and hit his waist with her elbow. John smiled and nodded his head. It was his day indeed. The traditional marriage went well, and 1 week after that, John and Grace sealed their marriage in the church. It was immediately after this wedding that Grace followed John back to the city, and they began to live as husband and wife. Auntie Mary, why didn't you add me in your I Shall Be Girls? James' youngest sister asked Mary. My angel, who said that I didn't add you. You are my number one, you know, Mary said, stroking her fingers on her head. James laughed at both of them. Since they started their wedding preparation, Angel had refused to go back to their family house. She had told her mother to transfer all her clothes to Aunt Mary's house. According to her, she would stay with Mary forever. No one argued with her. Her wish was their command. So far she wasn't doing something wrong, they would always stay at her back. Babe, have you called Mum to ask her about the cake again? Mary asked James. No need for that. She had called to inform me about it. One thing Mary loved about her new family was the way they related with one another. She had seen how people shared stories of how stressful their wedding was. In her own case, she hadn't seen any yet. Her wedding day had 2 days left to go, and she hadn't seen it. Her mother-in-law had carried everything on her head like a gala seller. She told Mary to relax and watch her do all the work. Mary still didn't know how and why the woman loved her so much. She didn't know what she did in her past life that brought such people across her way. Her father-in-law was not to be forgotten. The young old man was also a lion, supporting them with everything just to make sure that the wedding went well. James' siblings were always there asking her what she would want them to do. Mary had thanked them and thanked them more than 1,000 times. Mary had sent an invitation card to John. Although John didn't tell her about his own marriage, she was happy to share her own with him. John had sent a letter of congratulations. After receiving the card, she prayed that he embraced the occasion, and the day of the wedding finally came. Mary stood on the altar in her luxurious wedding dress. She was indeed an epitome of beauty. Her caramel skin flustered under the chandelier hung on the altar. Her makeup artist was one of the best. Her mother-in-law made sure that she had the best makeup artist in town. Everything about her was perfect. James stood opposite smelling like a child who had won 5 naira. He was so happy. His black suit and shining black shoes was elegant. The priest came out, blessed their marriage. They exchanged vows. And then comes, you may kiss your bride. Without hesitation, James cupped Mary's face and gave her a deed and lovely kiss. It was their first time kissing. The reception took place at a Grand Star hotel. It was the kind of place that Mary had never entered before. Although she had followed James to the place during the time they were still deciding on which hall to choose. But right now, while standing inside the hall, everything had changed. The decorations had changed. Everything in the room, the golden plates and chairs, the beautiful flowers around the hall, they were dancing when Mary's eyes landed on John. Their eyes locked immediately, and Mary averted her eyes instantly. It was after the celebration that John, along with his wife, came to Mary and said congratulations. He handed her over an envelope and left. The day after the wedding was supposed to be exhausting, but that wasn't for Mary. her mother-in-law told her to rest. The woman shouldered the whole thing. She pampered Mary like her own daughter. According to James, he didn't know why his mother had chosen his wife over her son. Every time he had a little quarrel with his wife, she would always run to his mother. And, as usual, his mother would always support her. He regretted the fact that Mary's parents were late. It would have been one. He would have taken her parents the way she took his. But he loved it and always prayed that the love continued to grow among his wife and his family. 1 year after the wedding, James and Mary welcomed their first child. A bouncing baby boy, it was really a joyful moment in the family. James' mother celebrated Mary for giving her a grandchild. His father gifted her an expensive gift. And then James gave her a brand new car. The joy was really massive for Mary that she collapsed on the floor and began to beckon on her late parents. Her parents had died out of poverty. It was an incident that she never wanted to remember. But looking at everything in front of her, she had no option other than to call upon her dead parents. The tears streamed down freely from her eyes. She knew what she had suffered in the hands of her uncle and his wife. She remembered all the maltreatment and cruel words they poured on her every day. That was the main reason she didn't want to fight for love. She had done it during the time she was staying with her uncle. She did everything for them to love her, but they never did. So she told herself that fighting for love was a waste of time. Whoever that will love you will love. And today God had answered her prayers by giving her the best family in the Word, by offering her more than she deserved. James' mother patted her back and assured her that her parents were watching over her, and that they were happy for her. The woman knew her story and her sufferness very well, and she had told her that she would never experience sufferness again in her life. John's wife was mopping the sitting room when she heard a knock on the door. She went over and peeped through the door. Then she clicked her tongue. It was Sophia, John's younger sister. With a squeezed face, she opened the door. "Grace, why is your face looking like this?" Sophia chuckled, trying to walk inside the house. "What did you just call me now?" Grace asked her with a harsh tone. "What else should I call you?" "I called you Grace." "Sophia, I won't allow you to come into my house to insult me. If you don't have respect, tell me and I will give you one. Is your name no longer Grace? And by the way, am I not older than you?" Grace questioned with a smile. "I am talking and you are still calling me Grace. It seems like you don't have respect." Grace barked and pushed Sophia back. "What exactly are you doing, Grace? Don't forget that I am the reason you are here," Sophia said as a threat. "And so, go and look for your own husband, and stop coming here all the time to disturb me." "Grace, you can call the name 100 times, but not inside my house," Grace said and slammed the door. "Wait for your brother to come home and open the door." Sophia stood dumbfounded outside. Was that not Grace? Had she missed her road? The same Grace that would always come to their house begging her to talk to her brother and mother. Grace that promised her heaven and earth. She swallowed hard and sat on the pavement, waiting for her brother. The sun was about to set when John came back. He was surprised to find Sophia sitting outside the house. He asked her if his wife wasn't at home. Sophia explained everything to him, and even the way Grace slammed the door in her front. John didn't say anything. It wasn't even in his face. He knocked on the door, and Grace opened the door. "Why didn't you open the door for Sophia?" he asked. "Because she doesn't have respect. How can your sister still be calling me Grace after one of our marriages? This is my home, and if she can't refer to me as Auntie, then she should go and look for her own home," Grace explained. John turned to Sophia. "You heard what she said, right?" Sophia's eyes widened. "Brother, what are you saying?" "I am not saying anything different from what my wife said." "Do whatever she wants you to do," John said and went straight to his room. Sophia stood there perplexed. What exactly was that? Inside the room, Sophia lay on the bed and the memory of Mary came back to her mind. She remembered how Mary welcomed her the day she came. The way she tried to have a conversation with her. But she threw everything away because she wanted her brother to marry a girl from her village, a girl she thought was better. But now it was clear to her that a good person doesn't come from one village. If only they knew, they would have allowed her brother to marry Mary, but now it was too late. Mary was married, and Grace had a child for her brother. She brought out her phone and dialed her mother's number. "Hello, Sophia, how are you?" her mother said. "Mama, I am not fine," Sophia replied. "You are not fine. What's wrong, my daughter?" "Mama, you won't believe what I am about to tell you. Can you believe that Grace locked me out of the house because I called her Grace?" "What are you saying?" "Which Grace? Is she mad?" the woman yelled. "Mama, I am telling you the truth." "And what did your brother say?" "That one, he didn't say anything meaningful. He said that I should do like she said." "All right, let me call that stupid girl now." Grace was inside her room playing with her baby when her phone rang. The moment she saw the name on the screen, she knew what the call would be all about. So she hesitated before answering the call. "Mama, good evening," Grace greeted. "Hold that your greetings. What did Sophia say that you did to her?" the woman asked. "What? Don't pretend like you don't know. Why did you lock Sophia out of her brother's house?" "My house?" Grace cut in. "Tell me, why did you lock my daughter out of the house?" "Because your daughter is stubborn." "Stubborn by calling you Grace? Is Grace not your name, you ungrateful witch?" Mama, please don't call me names. I am not Mary that you did whatever you wanted with. If you don't behave like a mother, I will treat you like a child." John's mother's stomach tightened. "Grace, am I the one you are talking to like that? Who else am I talking to? Let's respect ourselves. If Sophia can't give me the respect I deserve in my own house, then tell her to pack her bag and leave my house. I am not Mary. I will deal with her." John's mother angrily hung up the call and dialed John's number. "Mama, good evening." "I don't need your greetings, John. I just called your wife and she gave me the highest insult of my life." "Grace insulted me, John," the woman said with a voice full of anger. "Mama, what do you want me to do? You are the one that said that Grace is the best. I have married her to make you happy, yet you are complaining. I didn't know that she was like this. I never knew that this girl had been pretending all along. Well, I can see that you are not ready to put her in her place. I will do that myself," the woman said and hung up. John signed and collapsed on the bed. He had regretted getting married to Grace. She wasn't what he thought she was. He can't forget the day Mary did her wedding and what happened when they got back home. Grace had accused her of looking at Mary with a lovely or perhaps seductive eyes. It wasn't an easy war to fight because for good 1 week after that, Grace refused cooking in the house. She was ready to fight at every point in time. And he had been trying all his best to avoid that fight. It was his duty to protect his family. They now had a son and also expecting another one on the way. The next morning, Sophia was still on the bed when Grace banged on the door and yanked it open. "Madam, you are still sleeping. Come out and clean the house," Grace barked. "What?" Sophia managed to say. "I said come out and do morning chores. Are you here for me to serve you? This is my house and you must follow my order." Sophia stood up from the bed and went out to do morning chores. Her joy was that her mother would be coming to the house that day. She would come to teach Grace a bitter lesson. It was exactly around 2 p.m. that Grace heard the doorbell ring. Sophia, knowing that it would be her mother, ran towards the door, but Grace stopped her. "I will handle the door," Grace said and sprang up. She peeped through the door and saw her mother-in-law standing. Without a word, she locked the door with the key and went inside. Sophia tried talking to her, but she shut her up. Her reasons being that her mother-in-law or anybody shouldn't come to her house without informing her first. The woman stayed outside until her son came back from the house. Her heart was boiling in anger. She yelled and narrated the whole event to her son. And to her surprise, her son didn't say anything. He only told her that he had married the woman she wanted him to marry. Grace made the woman's stay uncomfortable. She starved her, and John never said anything about it. She locked her kitchen whenever she was going out. The woman tried to fight Grace, but in each of them, Grace constantly reminded her that she wasn't Mary. One Christmas, Grace and her husband traveled to the village. She packed everything and locked it in her room. She mistreated her in-laws as if they were nothing. The only people she entertained very well was those from her side or those that came to see her. Years later, she stopped her husband from sending monthly upkeep to his mother. She made him stop paying his sister's school fees. Everything about John changed the moment he got married to Grace. One faithful evening, John's mother swooped down in front of John and cried out. She begged for his forgiveness. She told him that she was foolish to have stopped him from marrying the woman he wanted to marry. That it has become clear that a good wife can come from anywhere. She can come from the village or township. John, after listening to his mother, helped her to stand up and then said, "I am glad that you have seen it by yourself, that a good wife can come from any state or country. You can now agree with me that choosing a spouse has nothing to do with state or country, but character, and understanding." The woman shook her head and embraced her son. It was a grave mistake, but she was glad that others would learn from her mistakes. Hello, champions. I hope you enjoyed our stories. Please hit the like button, leave a comment below, and subscribe to our channel. Thanks.